Sorry about the delay, folks. We had a minor technical glitch. We will restart the hearing. Good afternoon and welcome to this online hearing of the Committee of Adjustment for the City of Ottawa. The Committee of Adjustment is a quasi-judicial tribunal appointed by City Council to make decisions on certain types of applications under the Planning Act. My name is John Blatherwick and I will be chairing this hearing today. With me are my fellow panel members, Bonnie Oak-Charon, Stan Wilder, Heather McLean, and Michael Wildman. Please take note that this video conference is being live streamed on YouTube. The video will be archived along with today's agenda on the city's website. Before we begin, we have a few items to outline for your information. While the issues surrounding development of this in the city are broad, our mandate is quite limited. The committee cannot consider aspects of the proposal that are not related to the required variances. Noise, pollution, property maintenance, property values, prosecution for illegal construction, personal comments regarding neighbors, agents, or applicants, and additional variances without proper public notice. If there is an identified need for an additional variance or variances, including an increase in the extent of the relief required, the recirculation of the application is required. As part of the statutory public information or notification requirements, each applicant was required to post a sign on the property and file a statutory declaration confirming the sign posting. We have two of those for today's hearing, so I'm going to have to be asking people to answer to the solemn oath and declaration before we begin each of the items. The sign that we don't have a stat deck for. Regarding quorum, if this is lost during the hearing due to technical difficulties, the proceedings will be paused to allow time for the resolution of the issue. Failing the ability to reinstate quorum, the hearing of the items remaining will resume at the outset of the next regularly scheduled meeting of the committee, and the date will be confirmed with the coordinator. In terms of the hearing process, listed on the agenda and appearing on the screen are the applications we will hear today. For the sake of efficiency, the committee may deal with agenda items in a different order. And today we're going to deal with item 1 and then item 10 immediately after. Note that the committee members have reviewed the application materials prior to this hearing and any written submissions received in support or in opposition. In addition, the committee will hear today oral submissions from any interested parties as part of our proceedings. The committee may ask for a brief presentation by the applicant, followed by questions from the members where clarification may be required. The public submissions portion of the hearing will then begin, and any interested parties will be invited to make their submissions to the committee. Panel members may then ask follow-up questions where additional clarification may be required. When you are called upon to provide your comments, we will ask you to do the following. Start by stating your name and municipal address for the record. We may ask you to spell your name. Then begin your submission by addressing your comments to the panel members. You may ask questions, but please direct them only to the chair. Please limit your comments to a maximum of 5 minutes. Any exceptions will be at the committee's discretion. Once all interested parties have had an opportunity to address the panel, the public submissions portion of the hearing will then be closed. The committee will then make an oral decision to either grant or deny the application. The committee may also choose to reserve its decision. In such case, the panel will deliberate further on the evidence presented immediately following adjournment of the public hearing. In either case, the committee will send within 10 days of its decision, and to all parties and those who have requested it, a written decision that sets out the reasons for the decision. All decisions of the committee are subject to a 20-day appeal period, during which the decision can be appealed to the local planning appeal tribunal for a fee. Now, before we begin, are there any declarations of interest for any of the panel members regarding this hearing or the one this morning or the one that will happen this evening? Seeing none, okay. We have no minutes to confirm. We do have apparently an adjournment request. So we'll deal with that first. And that is item 5. 529, 527 Broadhead Avenue. Is the applicant there? Ms. Smith.
Unmute video. Good afternoon. Yes, we'd like to adjourn the sine die to review this letter from Bell that we received yesterday.
And the letter from Bell is regarding easement in the rear.
That's right.
Okay. All right, so a sine die adjournment, okay. All right. One question, Miss Smith, and you may want to deal with this when this comes back before us again. One of the panel members had a question, why the L-shaped severance? So if you could address that when we reconvene this item.
I can address it now if you want. It's because of the sheds, the existing sheds. The owner is actually going to live in the southern unit, and he wanted to keep the 2 sheds for himself.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, all in favor of adjourning this item, sine die? All right, the item is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. We will now deal with the items on the agenda. We'll start with item number 1 for Paulson Street. Is the agent there?
Yes. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Rod Price. I am the agent on behalf of the owners of 4 Paulson Street.
Okay, I'm going to have to administer the oath because we don't have a statutory declaration for this application. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the notice provided to you as part of the application process and by the committee was posted at the property to which the application applies for the prescribed number of days before the hearing and clearly visible and legible during the entirety of that time?
I do.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Price. If you'd like to continue then.
Sure. Yeah. As I mentioned, my name is Rod Price. I am with Rorschach Land Development Consultants on behalf of the owners of 4 Paulson Street, requesting a minor variance with respect to an existing lot of record. The owners purchased the property and demolished the former dwelling that was on it, and through the building permit process found out that this existing lot of record was in fact short lot width. So we are before you today with a request for a variance of 0.45 meters to bring the lot into conformity, both for the lot width to meet the single detached permit application, but as well will allow the secondary dwelling to be included in conformity as well. So happy to answer any questions. Pretty straightforward.
I actually have a question for the planning department. Could you explain why section 133.3 does not apply and 156.3 does for this application?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The reason section 133 doesn't apply in this case is once the minor variance is granted and the property is brought into conformity with the zoning bylaw, the secondary dwelling will be permitted as of right.
Okay. All right. Is there anything further, Mr. Price?
No, sir. Happy to answer chair or members' questions should they have
Any of the other members have a question regarding this application? All in favor of granting the application as applied for with that the amendment under the relief? All right. Thank you, Mr. Price. Your application has been approved.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the committee, have a great day.
And stick around because we're going to deal with the item number 10.
Excuse me.
Which is the 492 Rochester, a minor variance to permit the existing covered outdoor commercial patio with an approximate seating capacity of 20 persons to be located 4.9 meters from a residential zone without a screen or structure separating it from a lot in the residential zone. And before you begin, I have a question. Was this patio legally constructed, or was this constructed without the benefit of a building permit?
It was the patio itself is just part of the leased area parking lot. The awning itself was erected and was caught at the time of by building, I believe. So we're trying to bring it into conformity and have worked with the local councillor and staff to get it to this point. As you can see from the date of the application, It happened some months ago and we got caught up in the COVID and our fine was scheduled to be before you today.
Okay. Well, if you'd like to make your presentation, please.
Mr.
Sure,
Chair, we need the oath to be administered.
Oh, that's right. Sorry about that.
No problem.
I have to do the same thing to you twice.
It's okay.
We're all getting used to this. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the notice provided to you as part of the application process and by the committee was posted at the property to which the application applies for the prescribed number of days before the hearing and clearly visible and legible during the entirety of that time?
Yes, sir, I do.
All right, please
All
proceed.
right.
Bryce.
Okay, yeah, so as previously discussed, Rod Price, on behalf of the owners of Farinella Restaurant located at 492 Rochester Street. The owners own a pizza, ice cream slash Italian pastry shop. They put an awning up in the front of the building and put some seats out in the parking lot, which unbeknownst to them, they required a building permit. You can see it on the screen to the left. It's basically just where you can see the curb stops and what have you. So, due to the fact that the apartment building next door is also zoned residential fifth density, even though this portion of Rochester Street and is all under redevelopment and growth and transition. The zoning is the zoning. The restaurant is a permitted use. Patio is permitted, subject to the outdoor patio regulations. So we are before you for a minor variance request down to 4.9 meters, which would be the width, the distance from the adjacent residential building to the north to the awning. And just to put it in further context, the next closest residential property to the southwest is approximately 22, 23 meters from the corner of the leased area where Farinella is, where the north or southwest corner of the proposed patio would be. The patio is hopefully going to seat up to approximately 20 people. Open less than the permitted noise bylaw, closing down at 10 o'clock.
7 days a week.
7 days a week, correct? And we've worked with the board counselor who had no objections or concern. We worked with the neighboring residents, both of whom are supportive of the application. And given the nature of Rochester Street and this portion of Little Italy that is going through transition with mixed use going across the street, you've got a vacant restaurant to the immediate south and further commercial uses along Beach Street that this leased area portion of the building would be backing onto. We feel it fits the four tests as outlined in the application letter, and just looking for a blessing to proceed. I'm happy to answer any questions should
You're aware of Mr. Pregantis's daughter's letter, the owner of 490?
I am not. Nope. Unfortunately, I am not. All I've seen when I checked in Friday, there were no issues from the tenants. They were supportive. I'd be happy to hear quickly if what the letter says or states.
I think the owner's daughter is on our speakers list. So, so you said up to 20 people on the patio?
Yeah,
That's
no more than 20.
That's the
More than
maximum?
that. There's no room for more than 20 seats on the patio. Correct. So with social distancing these days, that's obviously less. But yeah, they don't anticipate more than 20 seats on the patio at any given time.
And the operating hours are what? When till 10?
Right now, 11 till 10.
11 a.m. till 10 p.m.
Correct.
Is there going to be liquor served on this patio?
As of right now, they are not licensed to serve liquor on the patio. Whether they proceed down the road with that, that'll be subject to another public process. Correct.
Does the restaurant have a liquor license?
I believe it does. Yes, it does. And I should further qualify that they're not intending to have music outdoors or any live music or anything like that.
So there will be no music at all.
That's right.
And what about lighting on the patio?
Lighting is, if anything, the awning is going to dim any light spillage. There's no additional lighting planned to be added. It's basically an awning that is outside to cover people from the elements, rain and what have you. No additional lighting is proposed.
What kind of lighting are you going to have at the tables though?
That is a great question. I don't know. To be quite honest with you, I wouldn't imagine it's going to be anything more than a candle or little table lightings.
So you can assume that it's going to be subdued lighting,
Absolutely.
not
100%.
Klieg light, not Klieg lights.
No. There's no patio lanterns or any awning lights that are proposed. If anything, it would be on individual tables and would be non-intrusive.
And what about some sort of buffer between the north edge of the patio and the apartment building that's less than 5 meters away?
Sure. Could I have sorry to interrupt you or for this request, but could we throw the site plan up on it? We've got the previous site plan from my other application up right now. Just so that everybody can put everything into context. Yeah. So in terms of a buffer to that building, it's a concrete wall. Any kind of proposed fencing or any kind of mitigation, I believe, due to the proximity of that residential wall, wouldn't serve much use.
To the north?
To the north, yeah.
Yeah, you're almost 5 meters away from 490.
From
That's what
490, yeah,
states.
5 meters. 490 is to the north, correct?
Okay, so
Where
I
the
mean,
apartment building is, yeah. To the southwest, there's already the owners actually put up some privacy fencing for the residential neighbor to the southwest of the
so
property.
why wouldn't they put a privacy fence along the north side of the patio?
We certainly could do that. We could have that included if committee wishes that to be a condition of the approval. That's something we are at your discretion for sure.
You'd be looking at solid fencing so that there'd be a mitigation of noise.
It could very well assist. I would be of the opinion that the closed awning serves that functionality. I don't know what a fence would do, but if that's what committee thinks will help, we're certainly
Typical, we
open to it.
deal with these kinds of things on private property. We require a 2 meter
Fair enough.
privacy wall to
Sure.
mitigate against light and noise spillover on abutting residential properties. And this one's very closely abutting,
Yeah.
very closely adjacent.
Yeah, and to me, that's a fair request, Mr. Chair.
Okay. We have one speaker on the list. Is that?
Mr. Chair, I do not see their name on our list. I would like to ask that they raise their virtual hand and I can promote them to panelist.
Okay. You're muted.
You'd think I'd know how to use technology a little bit better. So I'm the owner of Farinella on Rochester Street. I just wanted
And you
to,
are, ma'am, your name and your address, please.
Nina Agostini, do you want the address of the restaurant or my home?
Your home, we find.
51 Savuto Way. Keep going. So for the lighting, we actually just have string lights up above. I know that you guys were wondering about that.
Yeah.
They're actually there right now. They're not bright at all. And then we have a neon sign. And then as far as the patio goes for this year, we actually won't be opening the patio this year. I know that a lot of people are doing that, but we've decided that for this year, we're just going to deal with takeout. And like Rod said earlier, there won't be any music outside. And that's it. That's all I wanted to put back in there.
Okay. Thank you. Well, I take it our the other person, the next door neighbor's daughter is not on our list of speakers. All right, because we
They have
received
not raised their hand. Member McLean has a question for you.
Ms. McLean. You're muted.
Sorry about that. Mr. Price, what is the distance between the curb stop and the sidewalk? In other words, what's the distance of the length of the parking space?
I can tell you that right now. The distance from the second, scaling it off. Hang on, sorry. 5.6 meters through the chair.
So will it meet the bylaw requirement? I just want to make sure that the patio is not reducing the required parking space length, I guess.
Not at all. Not at all.
Okay, and then my second question is, in one of the photos it showed picnic tables outside the canopy area. I assume that they're not part of this application.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the members? Ms. Oakeshott.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd just like to ask Mr. Price, going back to the photo for a moment, we could see the brick wall near the door. And I was wondering if you could confirm that the window that's there is an apartment in the neighboring home?
I believe it's part of the apartments, yes. That's it. The one that you can see is, I haven't been inside. Whether it's part, whether it's a bedroom, a living room, a kitchen, I could not tell you.
Okay.
Nina, would you happen to know what that window is as part of the apartment?
Window is part of the apartment, but I don't know either what it was. We have a really good relationship with our neighbors. I could just ask them next time I see them.
Thank you.
And Mr. Wilder, you also had a question?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I may have missed Ms. Farinella's response. The liquor license, is it your intention to at some point apply for a liquor license for the patio? We understand from Mr. Price that you have a liquor license for the restaurant.
Yeah, in the future, I would like to apply for a liquor license, but we aren't a place where people come to drink and get loud and get rowdy. This is a family establishment. I mostly want the patio so that people can have their ice cream sitting down with their families. And I mean, I wouldn't want to, we keep our garage door open in the summertime. So the only reason that I would apply for a liquor license outdoors is so that I don't have to stop my customers at the line where the door is and tell them that they can't drink outside. So if we were to get it, we would have the barriers and everything, and it would just be a little bit better for the flow of the restaurant and for the atmosphere in here.
You have music inside the restaurant when the garage doors are open?
We do have music. It's in the far back corner of the restaurant, and it's mostly music for the staff, and it's mostly old Italian music. It's nothing too crazy or rowdy.
Okay, I'm just wondering about noise from the restaurant carrying out in the street when your garage door is open. That's even closer to the residential property than the patio.
The garage door is on the opposite side of the, but regardless, the building is cement, so the music doesn't really travel outside that well, especially with the canopy doors closed.
I was just curious. All right. Any other questions from members of the panel? I think what we're going to do is reserve on this application and discuss the conditions regarding your patio. And you will receive notice in the mail in approximately 10 days' time. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Have a good day.
Thank you, Mr. Price.
You betcha.
The next applications that we'll be dealing with are items number 2 and 3, 254, 256 Carlton Avenue. Miss Hill.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay,
Can't see you, but I can hear you.
I don't know why that is.
Hmm.
There we go.
Ah, oh, Miss Hill,
Hi.
I have to administer the solemn oath because there's no stat. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the notice provided to you as part of the application process and by the committee was posted at the property to which the application applies for the prescribed number of days before the hearing and clearly visible and legible during the entirety of that time?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And this is an application to for consent to subdivide the property in 2 separate pieces of land and minor variances to permit reduced lot widths, reduced lot areas, and reduced front yard setbacks. And the existing dwelling and garage are to be demolished in order to construct a 2-story semi-detached dwelling. And I believe we have revised site plan elevations on file.
That's right.
Okay. Okay, if you would proceed with your application, please.
Okay. So I'm not sure how this works. Oh, there we go.
Mhm.
Some images maybe popping up.
Yeah.
So I'd like to show the map in my cover letter that shows the instances along this street. That was it. If you could just scroll down. Oh, okay. Well, you know what? You've probably seen my cover letter. So the cover letter has a image of the development that we're proposing, which is a semi, which is very much like many of the other semis that line this street along its 3 blocks. The street has been redeveloped in this way because there are and have been a series of houses come on the market that are in poor condition or at the end of life. And there's an opportunity to build a semi here with lot width and lot area variance that is quite small. So if you scroll down in this letter, I'm showing a map of all the properties. There we go, at the top of the page. All the properties in the neighborhood that have been redeveloped with this exact same lot width and lot area variance in order to allow for this a semi that's very much like the one we're proposing. And so in consultation with the community association, I've been told that they are supportive of these 2 variances that have been repeated so much in their neighborhood. The 3rd variance that I'm requesting is the lot frontage or the front yard setback. So along this street, there are a couple of setback requirements in play. So there's actually a spot zoning over this street requiring a 10-meter setback. However, the mature neighborhood overlay requires front yard averaging, but it's the spot zoning of 6 meters that is that predominates or that is primary. And generally, that's a good idea for the street to keep it consistent because there's been so much redevelopment. However, on our particular site, which is, and you'll see it at the star in the bottom diagram, 254, the neighbor to our south has been developed at a 3.5 meter setback, and the existing house is where we are proposing to build ours, at a 4.9 meter setback. And the 4.9 actually is an average between our two existing neighbors. And because that one last house on the block has been built at 3.5, it actually will look better if we average than if we set back the full amount. And so we think that it's not only appropriate, but actually to the benefit of the neighborhood to average it out so that everything looks sort of purposeful as we come to the end of the block. In general, this is a house that's in poor repair. Neighbors have had concerns about it. So we have received positive feedback about the idea of tearing it down and replacing it with a new semi. There was a minor change to our application. Recently, we sent in revised elevations. It doesn't affect any of our variances in any way. We discovered that the underground services in the street were much higher than we anticipated. And so we raised the building, but we're still within the height limit. And so the community association is aware of the change. There doesn't seem to be any concern about that change. The building still looks very much the same.
What's the rear yard depth?
The rear yard requirement is,
okay.
Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I'm just wondering what you're providing as rear yard.
Yeah, we're only providing the minimum, which is a 28% rear yard.
Okay. So if this house was pushed back another meter, you'd be losing space in the rear yard.
Well, then we'd need a rear yard variance,
Yeah.
Or we'd have to make the building smaller. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay.
There's a fair bit of road allowance there as well. So it's not a building that's going to look tight to the street by any means.
You're aware of the conditions?
Yes.
Been requested cash in lieu of parkland, existing dwelling removed, independent services, accessory structure demolished or relocated, a joint use and maintenance agreement, and grading and drainage plan, all standard stuff.
Yep.
Okay. And I'm assuming that the department has no problems with this application?
That's correct, Mr. Chair. The department has no concerns with the application. There have been multiple applications or examples of the lot width, lot area reductions for semis in this street, and the department opines that the front yard setback averaging is more appropriate here. That will create a legible streetscape.
Okay. Regarding the order to comply, and I've got a copy of it here, this dates from June 2012.
Yeah, so we don't actually have a lot of information about that because the owner for which I'm working has purchased the property much more recently. So there was concern expressed more recently by a neighbor about some siding that was flapping, and so that was taken care of. It's certainly in ill repair and it needs to be taken down.
Okay. All right. You're also aware of Hydro standard request to maintain the offset clearances.
Yes.
We have I think we have the Champlain Park Community Association rep on the speakers list today. Either Miss Pearl or Miss Bankier.
Hi, I'm Lynn Bankier, one of the two co-chairs of the Champlain Park Community Association. Heather and I both comprise the Planning and Zoning Committee. I reside at 183 Carlton, so I'm quite familiar with all of the development that has occurred on this street. I've been a resident for about 30 years. So we are, as our letter stated, supporting this application. We did, however, want to comment and possibly, if the committee sees fit, to have it clarified in your decision. That's up to you, of course, that we looked at all our records and we have participated in all of the applications for all of the semi-detached in our R2D zone. We disagree with some of the setbacks that were listed by Ms. Hill. And so we've submitted to you a table that shows that although we do agree with the front yard averaging because we support the mature neighborhoods overlay and all its provisions, and we do find that Ms. Hill has done some mitigation because the 4.9 represents, according to our understanding of her plans, only a small portion of the front wall, and she has set the property back a little more for each of the residential dwellings, the majority of the face. So we're very appreciative of all of that. We do, however, feel reluctant in general for front yard setback reductions because Carlton has very short city right-of-way. I'm not sure Rosalind Hill's statement that there's lots for this particular property would be completely accurate given what we see. But we do, on the whole, just want it recorded that we, in general, prefer to have as much front yard preserved as possible on this street, which has been subject to many development applications, which we've supported when they conform to the mature neighborhoods and the alternate provisions. We're very happy to work with the developers, but we do promote preservation of as much front yard as possible for these applications due to the fact that we are losing so much opportunity for green space and trees, which is of course what the infill addendum is attempting to mitigate. So we're in support, but we just wanted that caveat that it's not to be read by incoming developers that we support front yard setback in our R2D zones, and especially on Carlton Avenue. We do support the averaging provision, but this particular averaging is based on a very anomalous situation, which is that the subject property has a very small front yard setback because it originated as a corner store. It was not operating as such for many years. It was converted to other uses, including residential, but in fact, it doesn't have a proper front yard, and it has affected the averaging for that entire part of the block. So it's a shame in that regard. It should have been actually zoned commercial somewhere in the anomaly report. It must have got changed and it wasn't brought to our attention. But as you see in the yellow highlight, it is an anomalous front yard because it essentially has only a concrete frontage that was in accordance with, you know, the old style corner stores of the old days that we don't see as much in our kind of neighborhood. But that is the reason that the setbacks are shorter than average on that particular corner of Carlton. So the setbacks at 258 and 260 are quite different from the setbacks on the rest of that block. It's because the averaging produced this short setback based on the very short setback of the old corner store, which is now being demolished. We're supportive of that, but it did result in that anomalous set of setbacks in that part of the street. That's all I have to say, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Ms. Pearl, do you have anything to say? Anything to add? You're muted.
Oh, sorry. Unmute. Where do I unmute?
No, you're fine now. I can hear you. No, now you're muted again. You're muted again. Oh, there we go.
All right. Okay. Love this stuff. Yeah, no, I just want to add that we always appreciate working with Rosalind. I like the designs that she does and the fact that she tries very hard to fit in with the community. And our only reason for providing this information is that we've had in the past a developer who tried to use the geomaps as a means of stating that his seriously reduced setbacks were consistent with the community. And by using geomaps, he was ignoring the fact that a lot of these places have overhangs. He wasn't measuring to the front wall or to the rear wall or to the side walls of the buildings. And there is a particular, it's the basic geomap that has not been updated for many, many years yet. So when they use that to calculate their setbacks using the distance tool, which I use all the time, by the way, for my own information, it ends up giving you a setback that applied perhaps to something that hasn't been there for 10 years. So this is our key concern. I think that the geomaps is a wonderful tool for making estimates, but you can't let it replace the actual surveys that will tell you what the actual setbacks are. So that's just, and thank you, Rosalind. You're awesome.
Oh, thanks. Can I just speak to the geo map?
Go right ahead.
Yeah, I actually should note in my letters, and I will from now on, that the data is generally taken from Geo Ottawa measurements, because Heather is correct. It's not particularly accurate. So we make an effort not to include front porches, to use street view, so that we're trying to use Geo Ottawa as accurately as possible, but it certainly is limited. So hats off to you guys for going and finding all of those development applications and getting the actual numbers.
One would think for the millions that we pay the IT department, the geomaps would be up to date. Just a comment. All right, any questions, comments from the other members of the panel? Are we prepared to vote on this application? Oh, Ms. Hill, could you just very quickly go through the 4 tests?
Oh, okay. So for lot width and lot area, it's complies with the intent of the bylaw, because the intent is for intensification, and it is very close to compliance there. It complies with the official plan, certainly in terms of bringing intensification in a scale of building that fits with the scale of the street and the pattern that already exists on the street. So the change is, I think, visually insignificant when you look down the street, so minor in nature. And which one am I missing?
It's a test.
What's that?
It's a test.
Intent of the bylaw, intent of the OP, minor in nature, and I forget the fourth.
Appropriate development of use of the land.
Oh, appropriate. Yeah. Well, you can see it's the same development that has been considered appropriate along the street for quite some time. When it comes to that lot, the front yard setback issue, the intent of the bylaw is to ensure that the pattern of development as it fronts onto the street is consistent along the street. And so we're actually making requesting a minor variance to do just that, because there's a bit of an anomaly there, such that the bylaw itself is asking for something that isn't really the intent of the bylaw.
Yeah, asking for 6 meters when standard practice is now the average.
Well, and the intent of the 6 meters was, as there was a whole lot of development going on, to maintain a steady line. But yeah, what a steady line means if for this site right now is not 6, it's the average.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you, Ms. Hill.
Thank you.
Thank you to the members of the Champlain Park Zoning and Development Committee. You guys are hats off. I'm prepared to grant this application as as presented to us. I understand the community association's concern regarding the front yard, but I think in this instance and at this end of this block, this to me is a reasonable fit. Anyone else have a comment on this application? All in favor of the application as applied for and with the revised elevations and site plan? All right, your application is granted, Ms. Hill. Thank you very much. All right, next application will be 63 and 65 Kenora. And I believe Mr. Segreto is the agent on this one. Is the agent signed on? No, Mr. Segreto. Can't hear you. Just a second here. We still don't have audio. And still no sound.
Mr. Chair, would you like to step this application down? I can send Mr. Segreto the contact so he can phone in for this application.
Yeah, we'll step it down to the end of the last item in the hearing. Okay, we're going to step this one down to the end of the hearing so that we can talk to you, Mr. Segreto. All right. Next application will be item 6, 190 Richmond Road.
Good afternoon.
There.
Yes. So I believe I have to do the declaration as well.
Yes, you do. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the notice provided to you as part of the application process and by the committee was posted at the property to which the application applies for the prescribed number of days before the hearing and clearly visible and legible during the entirety of that time?
I swear.
Could you identify yourself and give us your address, please?
Yes, my name is Kirsten Nietzsche. My address is 33 Ash Grove Crescent, Ottawa, Ontario, K2G0S1.
Okay. All right, if you'd like to proceed with your application, please.
Yes, so my name is Kirsten Nietzsche. I'm the agent for the landowner, Choice Properties REIT. And today we're here to talk about the consent for a long-term lease on the site at 190 Richmond Road. I'm also joined by Amy Chan from Choice Properties and Emily Rukian from Main and Main, who are part of the development joint venture. So they are available for our questions as well.
Okay.
So if we go to the first slide. Sorry, yeah, there we go. So this is just a visual showing the long-term lease area. So as I mentioned, this is 190 Richmond Road. And just to get ourselves familiar, I'll talk about the rest of the site in a minute. But you can see here the blue area shows the area of the site, which is the southeast corner. Along the north is Richmond Road and along the east is Cork Avenue. And so this area delineates the area that's needed for the land lease for the approved development of 190 Richmond Road for a 6-story residential building and associated parking. And because the lease is anticipated to be longer than 21 years, we require consent and permission through the Committee of Adjustment. So I'll just give a very brief overview of the proposed development for the site so you can understand the background. So if we go to the next slide, it just gives more visual context. As you can see, this is the site of the Superstore and the LCBO. And the main parking lot for the site is located at the rear of the property with access from Kirkwood as well as Richmond Road. So beginning in 2017, there was a development application through zoning bylaw amendment and site plan control to approve a residential building of 6 stories on that southeast corner for this site. So it went through zoning to permit the height and the use. And through that process, there were 2 public consultation meetings, one run by the applicant team in May, right after they submitted the application, and another run by Councillor Leeper's office. And that was held in, so I'm just looking at my notes, September 2016. Sorry, so this was actually, sorry, my apologies, it started in 2016. So there's been plenty of consultation for the development, and it did proceed through the appropriate channels for approval. And it was approved by council in June of 2017. And the subsequent site plan was approved late 2017 going into January 2018. So because the councillor has been involved extensively on this project, Choice Properties did contact Councillor Leeper's office to let them know of the long-term land lease. So we did consult with him as well leading up to this hearing. And he put 3 notices in, so he put a notice in 3 of his newsletters as well to let residents know. And Choice Properties also offered an email address where they residents could direct their questions. So that's just a brief summary. And if you go to the next slide, that's just, you can see here, this is the zoning that was implemented for the site to permit the 6-story residential building. And if you go to the final slide, you can see here the a rendering of the development. So Choice Properties is, working as a part of the community. They're, they've worked very hard on the design and they want it to integrate. And so they've been refining it as they go along. It's, development is planned for 2021 moving forward. And there'll be additional consultation through with the community, just, lead everybody up and bring them up to speed with construction, traffic management, et cetera, as they move forward. So that's really it. And we welcome any questions.
Questions from the members of the panel? How long is this lease going to be?
I will let Amy speak to that if she, because those are details that are more known by the landowner themselves.
Okay.
It's a 99-year lease for this particular site.
99 years, okay.
Correct.
And I'm assuming that all the consent criteria have been met for this?
Yes, so through the zoning provisions on this site, it was always looked at as being, kind of a standalone while also on a larger parcel. So the zoning meets the, the consent meets the zoning. It's 1 lot for zoning purposes. So all the setbacks are being respected and the access points are being respected. There's a servicing available as well on the surrounding streets. So yes, it does meet the requirements.
And how many parking spaces are there going to be for 252 units?
There will be, sorry, I have these written down in very small notes here. Approximately 175 parking spaces. So about 150 for residents and 25 for visitors.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's some concern about spillover parking from a 6-story apartment building into the neighborhoods.
This is a typical concern we see, through development. This is less than 600 meters of Westboro Transit Station. So, working with city staff, they were comfortable, supporting this development and the parking as you see in the development. And there was a traffic impact assessment done as part of the application as well.
And when was that done?
So that would have been done as part of the zoning and the site plan. So back in 2016, 2017.
Okay. And staff came, and that was done by the city or done by you folks?
That would have been done by the Choice Properties and their applicant team.
Okay.
So that's a standard, yeah, standard requirement for zoning and site plan.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So we have the length of the lease, 99 years. All right. Any questions to the, Mr. Wilder has a question.
I think I'm familiar with this site, obviously. This has been going on for almost a decade now since the superstore went in the lakes and the parking lot. And I know this has evolved from originally it was supposed to be a series of stacked townhouses, maybe 60, 70 units way back. Then it evolved to I believe last I had heard, was supposed to be a retirement home, which wouldn't have had as great an impact necessarily, as was pointed out in some letters that were received by the committee. And now, when was this change from a retirement home to what is now, I guess, going to be a purpose-built rental building or a condominium building?
So it is going to be a purpose-built rental, which we all know is definitely needed in Ottawa right now. It was actually changed before approved and before reviewed by Planning Committee. So when it went through the appropriate approval process with Planning Committee and Council, it was a residential building at that time and described as such.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions from the members of the panel? Are we prepared to approve this this consent application? All in favor? I'm good with it. Okay. Thank you very much. Your application has been approved.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The next application on the agenda will be item number 7, 234, 236 Holland Avenue. And we have a statutory declaration for this, so I won't have to administer the oath. I believe it's Mr. Green who is the applicant.
Good afternoon. Are you able to hear us?
Yes, please identify yourselves.
Hi, my name is Lisa Page, and I'm joined by my fiance Joshua Green, and we are both the homeowners of 234, 236 Holland Ave.
Okay. All right, if you could just briefly explain what you're requesting.
Sure. So we are requesting to subdivide our property into 2 separate parcels of land to establish separate ownerships for the existing semi-detached houses. So if you're able to please turn to the first slide, I think you should be able to see a photo of the 2 houses that we have.
Okay.
So we live in one of them, and then we're just renting out next door. And so we're just hoping to establish separate ownerships for the 2 houses that we own. So just based on our previous meeting that we had February 5th, that was adjourned, we amended our application to incorporate an additional severance application for 236, as well as we also revised the draft reference plan to incorporate 2 reciprocal easements. If you just turn to the second slide. Just one more. On the draft
The easements for the front walkway, correct?
Yes, correct. So we incorporated the 2 easements for the shared walkway.
Okay.
And if you turn to the next slide, please. Just of the service plan. So about a month ago, we just finished up with the completion of separating the water and the sanitary service lines completely for both houses. And we've included in our materials the stamped service plan, of which we received the green light from the city's engineering team that satisfies that service recommendation.
Okay. Yes, I note that that there's the conditions, independent services. You said you've met those. The joint use and maintenance agreement you'll need as well.
Yeah.
And and there's an agreement on noise because of your proximity to the Queensway.
Correct.
And from Building Code Services, there's a need to confirm fire separation.
Yeah.
And the certification of the party wall as well.
Yeah, so we've done that as well.
Yes, those have been done already.
All right. Any questions from the members of the committee? All in favor of this application for consent? Your application is approved.
We appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Have fun severing.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Next application we'll deal with is item number 8 on the agenda, 488 Bank Street. I believe Ms. Clark is the agent for the applicant.
Good afternoon. My name is Emma Clark. I'm here as agent for Taggart Flora Corporation, owner of the property.
Okay.
So we have what I
Could
believe.
you turn your volume up a little?
Oh, sure. Is that better?
Yes, that is. If you could please proceed with your application, your request.
Yeah. So we are requesting what I believe is a fairly straightforward consent to an easement for encroachment purposes in respect of the lands identified as Part 1 on the draft reference plan. If we flip to the second slide, I believe there's a slightly clearer image. So it's identified in yellow highlight on this draft reference plan. The building located at 502 Bank Street, which abuts our property to the south, was constructed prior to 1928. And the wall of that building, has encroached onto our proposed easement lands since that time.
Okay.
In consultation with the owner of 502 Bank Street, we wish to formalize and recognize the portion of the existing building which encroaches onto the subject property. For reference, the proposed easement lands measure 0.01 meters in width and 19.03 meters in depth, as is shown on the zoomed in portion in the bottom left-hand side of the current slide. I'm happy to respond to any questions that you may have.
I think Ms. McLean had some questions, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it was Bonnie raised a question about the enclosed site.
Oh, yes, sorry. Ms. Oakeshott.
Mr. Chair, I had gone by the site and it looked as if it was boarded up across both buildings, so I couldn't see the actual location. I was wondering if the agent could just provide more information about that.
Sorry, just to confirm, the location of the easement lands relative to the property, is that the question?
Right. It appeared to be completely boarded up over the area that's at issue.
Sure. So standing on Bank Street, looking at the site on the left-hand side to the south, there's a wall of the building at 502 Bank Street. I believe it's currently a plant store, and it's that wall which encroaches by about 1 centimeter onto the lands at 488 Bank Street, and that's the encroachment that we are looking to deal with today.
You're aware that Rogers wants to ensure that its easement is maintained?
Yep, we're aware.
Okay. And I note that there are several orders to comply regarding this property. I think they're dated 2018. Have those been resolved?
Yeah, we're aware of those orders. They related to the building which previously existed at 488 Bank Street, which has since been demolished. We are in receipt of a clear inspection report, which was issued just at the end of June 2020. Okay. We've been in touch with the building inspector who issued the orders to comply, and he has confirmed that he's now able to clear out those orders and that he'll aim to do so later this week when he's in the office.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions, comments from members of the committee? I think we now understand what the easement is all about. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All in favor of granting this this consent to establish the easement? Mr. Wilder, are you in favor? Mr. Wilder. He's frozen. Mr. Wilder. There you go. Lost Stanley.
I believe he's logged back in now.
Mr. Wilder, are you in favor of the granting the easement? Okay, all right. Your application has been granted unanimously. Thank you very much for your explanation. Okay. Next application on the agenda is item number 9, 774 Lonsdale Street. Going to be Alain Bisson, who is the agent for the applicant.
Good afternoon.
Hi there. So this is for item number 9, 774 Lonsdale.
Yeah, we did not submit a statutory declaration form.
Yeah, you're gonna. I'll have to administer the oath to you. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the notice provided to you as part of the application process and by the committee was posted at the property to which the application applies for the prescribed number of days before the hearing and clearly visible and legible during the entirety of that time?
I do.
All right. Thank you.
My name is Alain Bisson. This is for 774 Lonsdale Avenue. I'm the agent on behalf of the owner.
Okay.
So the subject property is a 2-story single detached dwelling where the ground floor footprint is actually smaller than the basement and second floor. So we are proposing a reduced side yard setback to permit to extend the ground floor footprint to match the other 2 levels. And the main reasoning is there's currently water infiltration issues. So we're trying to eliminate maintenance problems from waterproofing and just extend the second floor to align with the floors above and below.
Okay. Is there any encroachment on that easement, this construction?
There is a little bit encroachment on the rear yard. The property line is not completely parallel with the face of the house. So we've received comments from Hydro Auto because it's a utility easement. Their initial response is that they didn't have any concern, but that we should submit a layout service request for them to verify if there's any underground or overhead services.
And you've done that?
We put in the request today. We have not started that discussion yet.
So they're not concerned with this at all, really. They just want clarification from you guys.
Yeah, correct.
Okay. Okay. So if you could just give us an idea of exactly what you're doing.
Okay, so the front elevation, you could see there's a series of exterior columns that's supporting the structure of the second floor and the roof. And we're just proposing that we extend the footprint of the space, which is shown as the red highlighted area. So currently it's the homeowner's living room. So they're going to gain roughly a little bit more than 2 feet of interior space. And that is going to eliminate the walkway that's currently above the finished basement space, which is currently experiencing water infiltration.
Okay. And this slide we're looking at is showing us what?
This is the existing condition. So the intention is for the new exterior wall to align with the supporting structure, which is directly above the supporting wall above. If we keep scrolling through the drawings, we have our proposed drawings. So this is our proposed plan with the wall extended further towards the side yard.
Okay.
Essentially what's in green is what's proposed new. And then this is our final new elevation showing the infill and the proximity to the property line and our proposed new side yard setback.
This is essentially a more or less an existing condition.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Any of the members have any questions of Mr. Bisson? Mr. Wildman?
So I understand and here, and it seems to make some sense. Where I get a little concerned is I'm not sure how the committee gets their comfort that hydro is satisfied. Service layout request is yet to be disposed of. I would have a little bit of concern, I think, not knowing formally from hydro how they land on this. You know, generally speaking, if hydro's comfortable, I'm comfortable. I just not so sure I feel comfortable absent of anything formal from hydro. You'd indicated that they are comfortable with this. And can you explain to us where do you get this sense of comfort from hydro? Do you have a document or something that?
Yeah, I'm referring to the comment letter received prior to this hearing. So in their letter, I'm going to read it. It's the applicant's developer's responsibility to discuss with Hydro Ottawa servicing of the property and clearance from Hydro Ottawa overhead or underground infrastructure or easements so as to make informed decisions. Failure to do so may jeopardize safety or affect project timing or cost. But then they go on to say the proposed building modifications shall not affect accessibility to the Hydro Ottawa electric meter. So that's the letter that I received. I contacted them yesterday and they said for them to review the application, a service layout request should be placed with them.
So would you have a concern with a condition on this that would be subject to getting a formal clearance letter from hydro?
Yeah, we would accept that. I'll follow up with hydro and get that letter, and then we can waive that condition for approval of variance.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful, and it would, you know, make at least me, anyways, as a member of the committee, I would feel a little more comfortable knowing that we're not doing something that, you know, poses concerns. You know, we don't know what's in that easement specifically in terms of any covenants or what have you. So from my perspective to the members of the committee, I think I'd feel more comfortable with some sort of assurance that we're not creating anything that's going to be a concern to hydro.
Okay.
So our approval would be based on a conditional on Hydro Ottawa's agreement with your project, basically, that's not going to have any impact, and that the service layout request there showed no negatives. That everything's on the up and up. So if we just put that in, then I mean you've already been in contact with them, so I'm sure it's a matter of a very short amount of time before you get confirmation that that everything's fine, and then you can proceed.
Okay.
That sound good, Michael?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'd be very comfortable with that.
Okay. So with that, you know that Hydro also has a request in to maintain their offset easement, offset clearances. That's their standard stuff. You're aware of that. With that condition regarding the service layout request, would all members be willing to, or are members in agreement to approve this application? Yes, no. All right. Your application is approved subject to the condition regarding Hydro Ottawa.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We will now move to item number 4 on the agenda, 63 and 66 Kenora Streets. I believe that's Mr. Sagrado.
Hello?
Mr. Sagrado.
Yes, sir.
All right. This is an application of a consent application to subdivide the property into 2 separate parcels of land in order to establish separate ownerships for the 2-story semi-detached dwelling currently under construction.
That's correct. I think we have to do the oath there to make sure that we posted.
Yeah, we do. We do have to do the oath because there wasn't a sign. So do you solemnly swear or affirm that the notice provided to you as part of the application process and by the committee was posted at the property to which the application applied for the prescribed number of days before the hearing, clearly visible and legible during the entirety of that time?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
All right, if you'd just like to give us a very brief presentation, Mr. Sagrado, on this.
Basically, this is the semi-detached that is being constructed as we speak. And I'm just going for separate ownership under both parcels, part 1 and part 2. It's a fairly straight consent application. It's typically done once the construction is almost completed on these semi-detached that are permitted to be built.
Yeah, and you're aware of the conditions, cash in lieu of parkland, independent services confirmed in a joint use and maintenance agreement.
Yes, I am.
And the confirmation of fire separation and party wall certification.
Yes, I'm aware of that as well.
Any questions from the members of the committee regarding this consent? All in favor of granting Mr. Sagrado's consent application for the property? Your application is granted, Mr. Sagrado. Good luck with the project.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I do believe we are through the agenda.
That is correct, Mr. Chair.
All right. Well, are we offline yet? We are adjourned.
I just sent new invitations to all the members for the reserved item.
Bye-bye.
Okay, in a couple.